I get the vibe that you're distant. There's something about you that's different. I see it in your eyes. Something isn't right. Tell me again what I'm missing. 'Cause you're fading out. We've been here before. Tell me again, just tell me again, and I'll make it right. Don't go through that door. Tell me again, just tell me again, and I'll make it right. It is a lie when you tell me that nothing is wrong, just leave it be. But I see it in your eyes. Something isn't right. Tell me again what I'm missing. 'Cause you're fading out. We've been here before. Tell me again, just tell me again, and I'll make it right. Don't go through that door. Tell me again, just tell me again, and I'll make it
Go.
All right.
Happy Tuesday, everybody. My name is Andy Elliott. This is Rodney on the other side, the better side, right? Yes, of course.
The right side on my camera. Screen.
I'm glad you're here. A lot of things have happened. We got a lot of great stuff for you today. And there was something I was going to add. Can't remember. My name's Andy. I'm a real estate agent, realtor, actually, because there's a difference here in Williamson County. And Rodney is with First Trust here in Williamson County, locally. What our live stream is all about is about sharing information, which you're going to get today. And if you have questions, all of our contact information is in the description box. Let me make sure that it is there. It is there. So you can go there and give us a call or text or whatever it is that you'd like to do. Our goal isn't to sell you anything. Our goal is just to help you along. And if you're in the area, drop in, give us a call, say something. We'd love to say hi to you. So, Rodney, what's new with you?
Not much this week. Just after this show, I'm going to go outside because it's 70 degrees.
Jeez,
I'm probably
Louise.
going to hit some golf balls.
Okay.
What do you think about that?
I think you could turn around and hit golf balls right now, if I'm not mistaken.
I can, but I tell you, it's nice outside. It's the first. It may be my first 70-degree weather in a few weeks.
Yeah.
I was out of town last week when y'all had all that good weather. I was in Tulsa, Oklahoma.
Really?
Mm-hmm.
Is it good song?
Well, I was there in coincidence. It was the day after the boss, Bruce Springsteen, was in Tulsa, Oklahoma.
Oh, really?
Yeah. So
Yeah.
that's something about Tulsa. It's about the only thing I learned about it, but that was.
Well, and for a guy like me, songwriter, you got Danny Flowers, who wrote this song called Tulsa Time, and Don Williams, who sang the heck out of that. A lot of history on that place. So, gonna go golfing. Now, it's getting, I look at my watch like it tells me when spring is here, which it doesn't. I don't know what that was.
That's the iPhone 9 or the iPhone Watch 9 or something.
Hi, Angie. How are you? Yeah, sorry, I had to restart, and but here we are. We're all together. Angie, the mad cat, is with us today. We are talking, well, just for a minute, because Rodney was in Living on Tulsa Time recently. And so, us Nashvillians, we sing about everything. Our trash guys are like superstars. And I'm not kidding you.
Some of them.
Some of them. But what I was going to say relative to the watch thing is it's spring. And what you and I know, Rodney, is when the daisies start popping up, or daffodils. Have you ever driven down to Fairplay this time of year?
Mm-mm.
On 100?
Huh.
It's daffodils for as far as the eye can. It is absolutely beautiful. It's beautiful. But when the daffodils rise, so do the listings. And I bet you we're going to see a lot of properties magically appear here in the next few weeks. What do you think?
I think so. I think it's kind of just a prediction of seasons, right? It's like saying, I think it's going to get cold in December. I think so. I think it's going to, they're picking up some. I think that we're already seeing it.
I think we are too. And I think regardless of the economy and the way that it rocks and rolls, and it's, there's been a lot of stuff going on. We all know that. But regardless of the economy, when spring comes, there's going to be more listings, in my humble opinion. It can be maybe a little less than normal because of the economy, or a little more, as we saw a couple of years ago. So it can be affected by that. But I'm telling you, relative to a couple of months ago, there's going to be more listings. They're just going to be,
Yeah, you can't.
It's just
sunshine. Yeah. Sunshine gets people outside.
Sunshine golf balls.
Just like me. I'm going outside. I'm just not
sunshine golf balls. That's right. It's fun. You know what time it is? Time for Rodney's man. Oh yeah. I wish I had lyrics
to this. I'm actually glad. Are you sharing the screen there?
There it goes. We're in.
All right. As you can see today, today's right now they're down 3 basis points, but today they've been hovering around. It's like I've always said this is a mortgage-backed security, so this is up and down all day long, a little bit here and there, but overall today, not much change. We will look at the, let's see here. We'll go to the intraday chart, see how it looks. And this is, you can see over here our candlesticks. It's this is that 14 to 17 basis points moving on today over there on the right. And let's see if we can get out of
That's a little easier to read than that. Is that a different version of the same chart?
It's the Japanese candlesticks, but it's just on today. Like today, this is the whole day of today.
Got
this
it.
Is kind of just giving you a good perspective of how it moves up and down all day. So with the time starting at 8 a.m. and here we are right there. So overall, pretty calm. Not much going on today. Still, I think everybody is kind of on rates wise is projecting that we still may see a little bit closer to the 7 mark than the high 5s or low 6s for another few months. But like the guy was telling me, he's like, every other sector in the world right now is doing good except real estate and mortgage. So it's like, it's hard to tame everything, like with just our sector not doing as well as it has been. Right.
And I have to tell you that it's hard to complain, hearing somebody say, every sector is doing well except ours. After the last couple of years we've had, it's been a real gravy train. It's been real hard on buyers. I get that, but just overall, it's been pretty smooth sailing here for a couple of years.
A very, I feel like for my area, it's been good for so long. It's hard to remember a time it wasn't good, honestly.
Yeah, and it's pretty easy to whine about it, if you actually have to sell something. What? So, and I'm seeing, and it seems to me you tell me if I'm, of course, this is just conjecture. When it comes to rates and things like that, it's been dancing around this, call it 6.8, 6.9. I mean, it's dancing around that 7, but just below. It seems to me that all of the numbers and all the people are waiting for the Fed to pull the trigger one way or the other on an indicator of 0.25 or 0.50, don't you think?
I don't know. I think they kind of already built it in. I think they know which way they're going with it.
They do? 25, right?
It's like how much, but it's like they already know it's going, they already know where. I think everybody's already settled into the fact that it may be a few more months. They may raise it again,
right.
Just they don't know how much. Wasn't they supposed to be done before this one or?
No, I don't think so. I think what they were getting at, what we're looking at was if you remember going back a few months, it was 0.75 for 3 or 4 months in a row. Mm-hmm. I don't keep a track of that too much, but then they just did 5 and everybody's like, hallelujah, we've made it through the rain. And then this last month they did the CPI and inflation was still running a little hot. It was still running a little hot. And yet they still have to control that. And housing is, they said there's 2 things they got to control to get inflation where it needs to be, and that's housing. So we're taking a beating on that, and then jobs. And that's, we got to wait for people to not need help. It's got to slow down.
Yeah.
Enough. So, and then this last thing comes out, and it was running a little hot. So I was like, well, that means that they're going to increase the rates. They're going to tweak it again to continue to cool it off. So done? No, I don't. I think, and that's the reason I asked the question, because if they lower to 2.5 and, then we start to cruising, that's where the healing begins, in my humble opinion, so, but anyway, it's
I just don't think our mortgage rates can go much higher, just for the simple fact that give me 8% on a 30-year fixed rate return on my money. You know, it's not simple interest. That's a lot of money.
Yeah.
You know, I mean, everybody in the world will be buying those things.
Yep. And this is just, again, I think I'm just talking about human nature here, that people have gotten, and we're going to go into this, into the news you can use segment here in just a second. People have gotten a little bit accustomed, I'm not saying comfortable, but a little accustomed to the rates being in that 6.5 plus. Because if it comes down a little bit, and we're going to talk about the pendings. There's 2 reports on pendings that I found mind-blowing a little bit. But people have gotten used to that. Well, you pushed a 7.5 and everybody's going to go, wait. You know,
right.
7, I hated, but I can do it. 7.5, I'm not so sure. You know, there'd be people just saying no on principle to that, I would think. Right. You know, I can afford it, but no way.
Yeah. And their great grandfather paid 29 or something crazy.
29, yeah. But it's just human nature, you know, and I think you called that months ago. You know, when it gets high, people will panic for a minute, and then when it drops down, people will jump in. What's happened? So we'll go, good. So we can move on to news we can use. I really like that. I like that. The first piece of information that we've got for you today, and this is broken up, and Angie, I'm going to try something with you, young lady, relative to sharing my screen, but that'll come a little bit later. But I had you in mind when I did this. So the first one is the article there. There's a Biden plan. I don't know. That's the way the headline goes. It's a Biden plan. About to reduce the home buyer costs by $800 a year. I don't know why I laughed. Starting on March 20th this year. You're familiar with that, right, Rodney?
Yes, sir.
Okay. And so I'm gonna start it and you can finish it. What we talked about last week was LLPA, that loan level price adjustments for everything except government-backed loans, correct?
Correct.
Look at me. I'm learning something. Love it. Okay. Gonna have to get earplugs to hold all that stuff in. Today, what I learned, and this is, how old is this article? 27.
Not old.
Just a few days old. We try to stay current. We keep our food fresh here. That's what we do. I've made that mistake before. Did a 3-month-old article about 2 or 3 months ago, and Rodney went, "Hey, how old's that article?" Sorry. It's 3 months. It's like cheese. Get rid of it. So the Biden administration is going to drop. I don't know why are they connecting it with that? So FHA, wrong. Okay. Under a plan announced Wednesday, the FHA, Federal Housing Administration, will reduce MIP, mortgage insurance premiums, and monthly fee by 0.3 of percentage. That's a third of a percent, right? Down to, Ronnie, you look shell-shocked. I must have stepped in it someplace. Down to 0.55. So, take it away.
No, that was, first, let me correct something. You said at the start, LLPAs for everything but government. Pretty much so. It's for conventional loans like Fannie and Freddie loans. So like the non-QM loans, jumbo loans, all those, they don't care about LLPAs, but conventional loans is, 99% of, a lot of markets. So outside of conventional and FHA and VA. So this, listen, I've never probably been on a record for saying something that I really didn't care about Biden, but, I'll say this. This is a great, great deal for homeowners.
Oh.
This is a great change. It is a reduced cost. It's exactly what we talked about, because FHA is federal housing, which is HUD, okay, which is controlled by the government, right? The president does appoint, I think, a director of FHA.
Okay.
Remember, I think President Obama appointed that guy that bought all that fancy furniture for his office. I forgot, but it made real big headlines. And then, of course, the next administration appointed somebody, and then the next administration appointed somebody. But this is a really good change. They're lowering it by, and like the article's really close to accurate. It's like $800 if it's, I think it was like a $350,000 purchase price, something like that. So it's awesome. It's a great change, and it definitely can save homeowners some money.
Well, there's a couple of things that caught my attention on this particular article. And the first one was FHA insured mortgages only accounts for 7.5% of home sales in the third quarter of 22. Mm-hmm. Now, when I read it that way, that kind of makes sense, because I bet that hasn't always been the case, has it? I mean, because at the end of 22, in 2021, 22, the actual first-time home buyers have just been pushed to the side.
That's definitely part of it, and part of it too is, in my opinion, let me throw this out there, is that just over the way the mortgages have been regulated and all the changes, FHA has been designed to just catch, in my opinion, the people who cannot do anything else, who cannot go into another loan program. Just for the MIP was a big portion of that, because it's a 0.85 factor on right now, or before the change. So $100,000 loan, you would pay $850 a year on mortgage insurance against default on the loan. And that's the government, right? That's the government back. After you've already paid 1.75% of the loan amount up front. Does that make sense?
It does.
You have the upfront premium as well, and then you have a monthly. Well, over the years, that monthly has skyrocketed all the way to 0.85, and it never comes off if you're above I think a 90% loan. So this change really helps get that payment back down to where it's more comparable to a conventional loan and a conventional loan payment. And the rates are good. FHA rates are good. So yeah, it's a really good change. We're hoping it opens up the door and makes it a little bit easier for some people.
Well, and then so that brings me to the next thing, and this is just kind of a test. So Angie, just bear with me. I'm going to try to make this work, because I know that when we're doing this live stream, I'm looking at huge monitors, and so I think everybody can see big like that. When I forget that it's just a YouTube viewer, perhaps on an iPad or something. So I actually had forgotten about the size. But what I'm getting at is this. And I'm actually kind of responsible for my own thinking on this too. Trying to play it down, but I can't. Here's the thing. What they said was in this, let me find it. For a $275,000 house, you're going to save $69 a month. And when I first looked at that, it was like $275,000. Not that isn't a good thing, but I was like, I wonder if those even exist. Well, let me show you something. And this surprised me. These are, and I know you can't make out anything specifically, but what I'm showing you here is, and if this is too annoying, Angie, just let me know. The red are sold properties in Davidson County. The green are for sale properties. And these are all, it's from $0 to $275,000. And what I'm showing you, which I was really pleased to see. You know, we're always talking about median prices and average prices and all that kind of stuff. Well, you know, this is part of that. And there's 356 listings shown here that are available for people in that particular category that's going to save $69. And I'm just saying, all I'm saying is there's opportunity out there for people, you know, and these aren't necessarily mansions, but there's a lot of good starter homes in here. And that was kind of my point.
That's I'm actually surprised about those, seeing that many as well. Were all those habitable, or a lot of them habitable?
Yeah, I'm going to go back to this and just hopefully I'll show you a couple of them. I am straining my.
Yeah, I mean,
see, that's decent. Now this is Harding Place, so Rodney, we know this area.
Yeah. Well, I'll tell you what. I mean,
here's another one. Here's another one. There's nothing wrong with that. Well,
the first place. I mean, the first. I don't know if that's the same one or not, but
It's
one
not.
of them better than the first house I ever had.
I'm telling you. And there's a lot of condos. I mean, obviously, and I mean, there's a place around here called Countryside. It's Country Drive. I'll never forget. I got to visit this place. And like I said, is it a mansion? No, but I'm saying that if you listen to enough people, you'd think that there's nothing available for under 300, and that's what I'm trying to state here.
There's actually more than I thought. That's awesome.
356, and like I said, and I'll show you just one more time because this seemed to work out okay. The reds, those are sold. So there's a lot of people. There was a lot of people. If we look at the list, there's 100 actives that look something like that. And then there's going to be, 300 solds in the last 3 months for that price range. And this is just showing you price versus actives. But, you know, God bless America. That's all I'm saying. If you're just getting started, here you go, you know? And I think that this program, how does that work? They say it starts March 20th. Does that actually mean?
It basically means, for a lack of better, getting into anything crazy, basically if I close on March 20th, they're going to get it after. So as long as it closes, as long as I deliver it after March 20th or after. Like as long as your closing date's there.
Okay, so it's the closing date that
I'm making it the closing date. I think they actually say like delivery date or their endorsement date, which they have it. They check their HUD case numbers and all that,
right?
And especially it depends on what kind of lender it comes from. But either way, I think if we close by the 20th, it gets delivered to them, and we are doing the. Like if I could take an application right now, I'm using that new premium
to get things started. Because what I'm saying is after March 20th is when these new lower rates kick in, correct? Yes.
Correct.
Okay. All right. I'll leave that alone then. But I thought that was kind of eye-opening. You know, it just shows I need to snap out of it a little bit more. So the second thing, and this may not... This is not going to apply to everybody, but I simply thought this was just interesting. And the question is, can you assume a VA loan? What I thought was when somebody has a VA loan, that to assume that I'd come in and I just pick up that percentage, that interest rate, and often to make payments into the sunset for this house. This is not true.
Well, it is. You just have a chain attached to some other stuff. You get the interest rate. And I'm not a VA assumption expert. Let me just say this. I've never seen one come to fruition in my 20 plus year career. They are assumable. And from the terms I understand that, and what would work is if somebody come in and they could assume the veteran's loan, and they could do it being a veteran and not being a veteran. If they're a veteran, they get the other veteran, they can kind of transfer their entitlement the way I understand it. And then the non-veteran can take the veteran's loan, but the veteran's not, his eligibility is not released like if he needs it to buy another house.
Right.
The whole thing that stops it, well, I think there's two things. One is it's just, I don't know. It just doesn't come up very often. It like the need for it.
Do you not get a lot of questions about it though?
Not really.
Really?
Not really. Because the second thing is, the second big thing I think that stops it is that the veteran who has the house needs his equity. So if you know, it's like, okay, well, I want to assume your loan, but I've got to come up with, because if let's say this veteran bought this house for $300,000 10 years ago, and today it's worth $650,000
easily,
and he's
right?
paid it down $100,000. So now he only owes $200,000. It's worth $650,000. So now whoever comes in has to pay him $450,000 to assume that loan. $450. You know, he's got to buy it for $650. So $450 is cash, and then he gets the guy's $250 loan or whatever. Wow. So that's the whole premise about it. We should try to get a VA expert on here to or see if there is actually one that does assumables and actually kind of tell me why in situations where it could work. Because I think when people have a lot of VA, when it's a veteran, when there's a lot of veteran population, like around, like let's say Fort Campbell,
right?
A lot of houses around Fort Campbell are veterans. Well, 9 out of 10 of them have their own VA eligibility when they want to buy it,
right?
So so they could assume it, but they probably don't have the down payment, right? So and if you get somebody that's not a veteran and they're going in and they have the means to put $400,000 or $600,000 down, they may not need that type of loan anyway. So there's just a lot of things to it. I think FHA has some assumability rights to it as well, but it's similar to this. You just still got to buy it from the seller. Yeah,
and I think maybe it's my age, maybe it's just I've been around a minute, but assuming loans used to be a thing. It's just not been.
Like I said, in 20 plus years, I've never even had somebody contact me to do it.
Wow. Huh. Well,
I actually just before this article, I'd actually went through some state and NMLS guidelines about VAs and specific stuff about VAs and assumability, and that's kind of no news there. It's kind of been the same thing for years.
Yeah. Well, and the only reason this came up, and the article, I caught it on the heels of a conversation I had with a client of mine who we've been working together 10 years, I guess it is, 10 years. And he's a vet, and he got it VA, and he was thinking that he could sell his house this way. And so it was just on my mind. It would never have hit my radar unless Brian had said something to me, And then this article came up. It was like, thank you. Anyway, so put that to bed. I'm going to send him that article and tell him it's just not, it doesn't appear to work in every case. You know, I mean, maybe it does, maybe it doesn't.
I don't see it a lot. I've never seen one done. You kind of got me curious, though, if there's actually a VA specialist out there that does it. I'm sure they would list themselves as specialists on the internet, kind of like I list myself as a YouTuber or whatever, right? But
Yeah.
I play one for 1 hour a week.
And you do darn good at it. If you find somebody, we've got space. We can have up to 10 people on this thing. So we can have a crew. We can have a chorus. So enough of that. So the next one we've got, I want to touch base with is, let's talk about, this is really interesting to me, how the pending sales, there's a couple of articles and you've seen some YouTube videos or you've seen some headlines about pending sales skyrocketed in January. Now, here's the thing, and there's a point to my conversation, and this is something that bolsters what Rodney and I have been saying this whole time. I've kind of been a little bit lambasted personally for having a positive spin on the whole housing market. It's a tough market, but it seems to be recovering, and I think that the feds are doing a pretty good job. And I'm as red, white, and blue as the next guy, but if they mess it up, I'm gonna point my finger too. But it seems like they're working their way through that pretty well. But what Rodney and I have been saying this whole time, even back in the darkest of days before, well before Christmas and all that kind of stuff, when home sales were just tanking, pendings were they were the worst. Well, we're starting to see them recover. And so in this particular case, this article talks about there is a rush of contracts being written in January. And so that's what this article is about. It went up 8.1% compared with December. Well, that's a lot. You must have seen that and felt that at your place too, Rodney. Is that right?
100%. I actually thought it was more attributed to the rate drop. I mean, it got,
that's what my point is. Right. It is. Yes, it is. I agree.
We had some lock in under 6%, and I think it spurred a little activity. So yeah, I mean, I think that's exactly what it's from. And if we were able to see that again in March, April, or May with a spring, I think it'd be, I think our numbers would be, definitely better than what they are as well.
Yeah, which brings me to my point. And I'll say it this way. I'm going to pull up this different article. And I'm going to just show you this thing. This is more of the same. It's talking about pending home sales rising sharply in January. And where it makes our job, meaning as live streamer YouTubers, where it makes our job interesting, it seems to me, is that we can have these kinds of headlines floating around, and they're legit. There's a lot of houses selling out there. I just showed you a screen filled with 300. Mm-hmm. 300. Right, yeah. In the last 3 months, they were lower dollar, but still, there was a lot of houses being sold, right? But then if we go, this is the point. Then we go to this next one. And it says new home buyers are backing out of deals. Why? And what they point out, here's what they point out. And I'm going to just read it. I won't pull it up. Nationwide, the number of newly pending contracts, this is the new home buyers backing out of deals, Rodney. Nationwide, the number of newly pending contracts to buy a home plunged from 58,000 to 55,000 during the week ending February 17th. Here's my point. On the heels of 8.1% increase in January, to where it's now. This is the first decline since the start of the year, which it's only March, so give me a break. That's the first one. But, and it says a notable reversal from what appeared to be a slow recovering housing market, which I believe it still is. But here's my whole point, and I'll let you go, Rodney, on this. People are sensitive to the rates, and as soon as the pressure is off, like you've said, we get an 8.1% increase. Pressure comes up, and they go to sleep. Which
I mean the market. I don't think there's a secret where they could probably, looking back on it right now, they could say, okay, if rates are national average, 6.75 and above or whatever, home sales are going to decline or stagnate, or it's going to slow it down from the crazy previous record we've seen it. There's still always people buying and selling, and there's a lot of that going on numbers wise, right? But when you spread out across the country, it's definitely thinned out for, each market. So yeah, I mean, and what I'm seeing is once they come back down to 6.5, 6.25, you're seeing more activity. And that's, people are like, just like that graph you showed, in my opinion, we are seeing a lot more first-time home buyers come back, and they've got a chance at the plate now. So you showed that graph there in Nashville that 300 or wherever it was, 300 plus houses already sold and another 100 listings. Even if a lot of those are lots or whatever it is, I don't know, or a tear down maybe, I don't know, but that's a lot of activity in that market.
Yeah, and
so,
I mean,
I'm with you.
Yeah, and my whole point, and here's my whole point, and this is what really we've been saying. This is why I'm so positive about the housing market. And tell me if I'm wrong on this, Rodney. That tells me that there's a lot of pent up demand, and it's just that we're right on that line of people saying yes and saying no. That's a pretty fine line, and as soon as if the rates drop enough to where home sellers feel like, okay, I can live with 5%, whatever, they'll start listing their house, and then all of a sudden inventory is going to come up. And I mean, even the 300 or 400 houses there's inventory, and we could change the numbers, and we go to do 500 to 700, and it'd be a whole different deal. But there's people wanting to move. That's my point.
I agree wholeheartedly. Is that first of all, I think that we didn't get out the pent up demand from years ago. We have never recovered from the pent up demand that I think we've had from previous pent up demands
from 2010. It was we were underbuilt before the crash.
Yeah, and in COVID, COVID, we were a lot of people coming in and buying, but a lot of people weren't selling and buying like
Correct.
me. A lot of people were just flat out moving in versus, like, let's say I want to move a county over, I want to move a street over. Hardly any of that was taking place.
Yeah.
Yeah, I think there's a ton of demand, and with as rates come down, people will have the equity and the means to be able to accomplish what they want to do with that.
Yeah, and I think as much as anything, the pent up demand is going to end up being with move up buyers. It's going to be local what I call local migration. You're moving from one neighborhood to the next. Maybe it's from Williamson County to Murray County, whatever. I'm making that up, and you both know I am. But people have, if they've still got a job through everything we've been through, they've probably got some money saved up. They're talking about debt and that kind of stuff in a general scale. I'm talking about pent-up home buyers that have been preparing this for a couple of years, but can't dig 7%.
Right.
But you show me a 6.5% and a house.
Yeah, I mean, 6% is wearing on them now. 6%. I mean, everybody, it takes a minute when somebody takes the golden goose away, right? I mean, and people are like, oh, I'll be able to borrow money for, 3% for the rest of my life. That was a spectacular moment in financial history for us,
It
so,
really was. And we
yeah.
shouldn't expect to see that again. So I think that overall, and if there was a fine point to put on today's live stream, it is, and I've been saying this for weeks and really just hoping that it's true because none of us has a crystal ball. I really do think that we're going to be okay. I really do. Things are weird. I mean, they're slower than normal, but we're going to be okay. And I think that once people gain confidence, I think a big deal is who wants to go out and buy an X amount of dollar house, for 6.75%, only to have rates drop down to 4.5%, which isn't going to happen. In the next few months, you'd feel like you lost somehow, or and they don't want to see home values drop. And what the market seems to be showing, and you show us every week on Rodney's rates, that yes, they're high, but they seem to be moderating. They're not doing that wicked wild stuff.
Right. And I was in Tulsa when I was we talked about that before the meeting. I was wanting to pull up this right here. It is like, this guy was asked that, well, what do you say if somebody asks you if it's a good time to buy a house? What do you say? And he was like, okay, well, I'm going to pull up, I'll just pull up San Diego, Chula Vista, Carlsbad, California. Since 1991, they were up 385%. The house. Rochester, New York, 147, and that's the lowest. Hey, you go to Salt Lake City, Utah, 91, it's up 655% since 91. Syracuse, New York's 150% over. Seattle, 489%. I mean, what? When you say it's going to be all right, it's great. It's great now. It's just because it's not the best of times in the world, but this is an investment. Your home is usually, your investment, right?
Yeah.
And I understand investors and flippers and all that stuff, but that's generally not who I'm talking to on this show. Who I'm talking to is that my cat?
I hope so.
But yeah, I mean, this house in Tucson, Arizona, 364% increase in your home price since 1991. It's always a good time to buy. It's I mean, for me, you're going to have your house for a minute anyways. It's not like you're buying,
right. So what you're saying is simply play the long game, get out the driver.
Yeah. Crush it.
And on that note, well, this has been fun. We covered a lot of turf, and I think if there was a point that I was trying to make, and they were pretty consistent with all of that, is things jump around a little bit, like the pending sales. Things are slowing down a little bit naturally. There's nothing extraordinary about this, and things seem to be solid. And you know what? We're just going to keep doing this week after week and watch this thing start to grow. And as we get more healthy, kind of celebrate with everybody, because there's a lot of questions out there. And if you have questions, feel free to give us a call. It costs you nothing. We're not cost you nothing. So we'd love to chat with you. And again, phone numbers are all in the description box. So any final thoughts there, sir?
Man, enjoyed it today. And whoever's lambasting you about being positive, hey, there's only one way about it. A glass is half full or it's half empty. You get to choose which one that is.
Yeah. And I've been doing this a long time, and I've been through the tough times.
Yeah.
I know what the tough times really look like. So
Yeah. I mean, it's slower now. There's no question about it. Numbers all project it slower, but it's it's not doomsday though.
but it's reasonably stable. I think if I was to walk away with anything, it's not what we want, but it's reasonably stable. And I'll take stable all day long, So just like your friendship, Rodney, we go back a minute. So, hey, listen, thank you very much. Thanks everybody for watching. Sorry about the little hiccup in the beginning. Live TV is just like that. Talk to you next week. See ya.